Richard Drax. Mr. Deputy Speaker, it's a pleasure to follow Ronald Member. I don't often agree with him, but on farming, I'm pretty much on board with him. Can I too pay tribute to Minette Batters, who's done a wonderful job as the President of the NFU, and good luck to Tom Bradshaw, who's taking over, and pay tribute to the NFU as an organisation with which I work extremely closely. When I first got this job back in 2010, in fact even before that, I set up a farm quarterly meeting for Dorset farmers, or it started as South Dorset farmers. In those days, there were about 2 or 3 attended. May I speak before I refer myself to the register of interest? Get that sorted. When this meeting started, there were 2 or 3 farmers, and then it's now gone to about 50 or 60 who meet, as I say, every quarter to discuss all the farming issues. And I'm very grateful to several ministers who've come down to talk to them personally at my request. What's rather alarming is that the issues they raised back in 2008, 9, 10, in many cases are still relevant today. And when I ask them, have things improved, the answer on the whole is no. They are amazed, as am I, that food security is now something that we all talk about. It hasn't been talked about for an awful long time. I think honourable members already noted that point, that food security has been ignored for far too long. And now we have another war in Europe and the world in a terrible state. Food security, not least for these islands, has now become a prominent issue, as it should be. What my farmers say is that we left the EU to reduce the red tape and to get out of the Common Agricultural Policy, which is an extremely good thing that we did. What they're asking for now is common sense, not targets, not over-environmentally sort of eco-zealots, forcing issues onto farmers that turn them from farmers into growing wildflowers. There's a place for wildflowers. Why does this country of ours look so beautiful? Why do so many millions of people come to this country, go to Scotland, Ireland, Dorset? Why? Because the countryside is absolutely stunning. Now, in most cases, who's done that? It is the farmer. And I'm tired, and they are too, of being attacked left, right and centre for doing all the things that are claimed they are doing, when in many cases they are not. There's a few issues I just want to touch on from my farming group. The first is the Poole Harbour catchment area. Now, the Minister is listening intently, and I'm very glad that he is. And I hope he's aware of this issue we have at Poole Harbour. And I know that my honourable friend, the PPS sitting behind from West Dorset, is very actively involved in trying to get this through to government. We have an issue. None of us have an issue with nitrate leaching into Poole Harbour. We quite understand that is a problem. Where we have an issue is that the tool that the Environment Agency has used to measure it has now been changed. Because after they did the first test, to everyone's delight, the test was way below the level they thought it would be. So what have they done? They've moved the goalposts. With absolutely no consultation with the farmers whatsoever. Now, they don't have much faith in the Environment Agency, and they now have even less faith in this organisation. And I touched with the Shadow Minister on these quangos. I remember Lord Cameron, as he is now, said back in 2010, we're going to have a bonfire of the quangos. There is a place for organisations such as this. But right now, they have become extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. And they are implementing policy that doesn't ring true with the direction of travel that the government wants to go. And Natural England and the Environment Agency are now doing things which, if I'm hearing the front bank correctly, I cannot believe they agree with. So, we have no issue with this trying to reduce nitrates into Poole Harbour. But for example, there is no way, as we understand it, we had the water company to come and talk to us, there's no way they can actually gauge the volume of sewage going into the rivers. We know it's happening, but the actual volume is almost impossible to gauge. Tenant farmers has been mentioned, and I would entirely concur with the honourable member from the Liberal Democrat Party that some tenants are feeling extremely vulnerable. We are hearing stories of land being taken back in hand to take advantage of environmental schemes, and likewise, in some cases, rents being increased significantly. Likewise, others are experiencing problems with land agents employed by landlords. Again, the Rock Review has been mentioned, and I would urge the government to look at this and to enact the many excellent recommendations that were made in it. My next topic is slightly off farming, but it's to do with it, and that's the reintroduction of beavers. There has been a report of a beaver being released illegally in my honourable friend's constituency in West Dorset. Now, this is causing concern because beavers, and I believe it's been experimented in Scotland to quite a large degree, in large rivers, where I suppose if you're going to rewild, there is some sense for an animal like this to be put into a large river. There is no sense, in our view, in reintroducing beavers into small chalk streams or any other form of stream in Dorset. Beavers dam rivers. They would then be protected, no doubt, by every organisation that will want it protected. Farmland then floods. Beavers don't hang around and say, this is my home. As has been proved in Scotland, they breed and move elsewhere and do the same in other rivers. And as I understand it, in Scotland, they've had to be culled because they've broken out of the area that was initially given to them. Can the government please look at not only the illegal releasing of beavers into rivers, if indeed this is the case, and that hasn't been proven as yet, but certainly to the legal release, and this emphasis on rewilding, which while we all want to see wild animals, there is a proper place and location for each of the various species. Next is the move from the stewardship schemes to the SFIs, the Sustainable Farming Incentives, and yes, we've heard about this from many honourable members tonight. This is something that has been promised by DEFRA, but as yet, we have yet to see a clear mechanism or process as to how it will work. This is something that we receive questions on every single week. And as we've also heard from several members on all sides of the House, that farmers are there to produce food. Yes, to look after the environment as well, of course they are, but not to the detriment of food production, particularly as we know food, or the production of food, is so important right now. Mental health has been touched on. Now, mental health in Dorset, the Farming Community Network, is reporting an ever-increasing number of farmers suffering from mental health. I have to say that the Poole Harbour catchment area that I've referred to is not exactly helping their mental health. And I also have to say there's not all the government's fault, this. I'm not necessarily banging on the government's door. There are world events over which the government has no control, putting pressures on food production as well. I certainly understand, I'm sure everybody in this House does. But mental health is a problem in the farming community. And a lot of it is because of the rules and the regulations and all the things that are imposed on them, and all they want to do is to produce food and look after the countryside. Lastly, TB. Again, this has been touched, tuberculosis. This is a major problem in the southwest, in particular, of course, affecting, in particular, the dairy industry. Culling has proved to work. And can I suggest that rather than talking about stopping culling on badgers and to introduce some other form, that all wild animals have to be culled. Because if they don't, their health deteriorates. They don't have any predators in today's world. Foxes, deer, badgers. We don't want to wipe them out, we just simply want them controlled. It's just pure common sense. And I finally would ask the Minister if he can just confirm that, as I understand it, the opposition party, were they to win the election, God forbid, are saying they are going to stop the badger cull. I'd be interested to know if that is true, and perhaps the Shadow Minister can tell this side of the House whether that is true. So finally, the British farmer is, I think, without doubt, the best in the world. And I would ask the government to continue to really, really do the best they can and to ensure that the rules and regulations are sensible and, above all, that common sense prevails.